Hey everybody, this is Erman Baradi. It is August 13th. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is another edition of Uncommon Grounds. Today we have with us Pastor Shannon Wright, who is running for Baltimore's mayor in 2020. 3 months away, so we'll see how it goes. How are you doing today, Pastor Shannon Wright?
I'm doing well, thank you. I'm doing well, and you?
I'm great. I see your background. I'm a movie guy myself, so I do appreciate your background. It's amazing. So the typical question I ask my audience, my guests rather, anytime I do these interviews, the very first thing I ask is talk about your background, where you were raised, your environment, because I think it helps us understand how you came to your political and world views. So if you can tell us where you're from, how you got started, all that stuff.
So I was born in New York. I grew up in New Jersey. I moved to Maryland several years ago to Baltimore. When I was a little girl, my mom was a single teen mom. We lived in the projects with my grandparents. My grandparents were not big advocates for education. They said, you're Black, you're going to be Black, so you can get whatever piece of paper you want. But in this society, there is a ceiling. My mother was the first in her family to decide to test that. So when I went to school, she went to work. When I got out of school, she picked me up and took me home to my grandparents. And then she went to school at night. She had to believe, she said, in herself, that there was a way out. And her story showed me that education is that way out.
Okay, fantastic. And at what age did you decide, hey, I think I'm going to try politics?
Never. That was not my intention or plan. My husband and I were raising our kids. We have 4 kids. And we really did not like the school district they were in. It was a Title I district. The buildings were in disrepair. The curriculum was terrible. The class sizes were, to say overcrowded was an understatement. I didn't think it was the right environment for them. So I started attending a lot of PTA meetings and Board of Education meetings and asking a lot of questions and kind of pushing the envelope on what could be done to really try and fix the schools. And a lot of folks said, well, beyond what the Board of Ed can do, the folks that really make the decisions are the elected folks. So go talk to them. So I did. So I had a somewhat heated discussion with someone, and they said, well, if you dislike it that much, why don't you put your name on the ballot? And I said, challenge accepted. So we started to do some things. I didn't actually put my name on the ballot back then, but I started to really work on the political side with regards to trying to change public education and find options and opportunities for families to make the appropriate decisions for their kids. And for us, we tried private school after we pulled our kids out of public school. That was expensive, and it's still, with 4 children, that was expensive, and it still didn't get us what we wanted. So we looked into homeschooling. And at that time, that was a really foreign concept. So when we decided to do that, and we did that, a lot of my folks that I'd been working with said, well, that's great for you, but what about the rest of the kids still stuck in the public schools?
Right.
Like, okay. So continued to kind of to work on education. And I just kept saying that things weren't getting better. So made the decision, okay, let's be one of the folks that's making the decisions.
Understood. Okay. And here's a fun fact. So over the last few months that I've been doing these interviews, by chance, the people who have responded to me happen to be Black Republicans from Baltimore area.
Really?
Yeah, there might be some folks that who I've interviewed. And I can tell you those names after the interview. Let's see if you
Oh
know
no,
them.
you should tell me now while
Okay,
we're going.
do you know Roxy?
I do. Roxy
Okay.
actually won her race last cycle in Bowie for council in Bowie.
Yeah. So I interviewed her a few weeks ago. There's another gentleman. He's running for District 2 in City Council, Brendan.
Brendan Joyner L.
Yes. I interviewed him last night. Yeah.
He is an awesome candidate. He really, really is.
Yeah.
I like him a lot.
So what's interesting to me is a lot of Black Republicans are running on the Republican. I'm sorry. Well, it's redundant, but a lot of Black Republicans are running in 2020 on the Republican ticket. So especially in Baltimore, it's a very blue city, and Maryland's a blue state. like,
Hmm.
if someone was to come up to you and say, Pastor, how do you associate being a Republican and a person of color? What is your response to that?
So a funny thing, you were talking about Black Republicans in Baltimore running for office. There's a group of us that are running, and we have been nicknamed the Baltimore Nine. There are 9 Black Republican candidates running for office in Baltimore City, which is a large number for an urban area, granted. But we Black and brown folks make up the majority of the city of Baltimore, and um, our representation of our values, of our beliefs, and our knowledge of what actually works is not being used in the city. And that's clear because we're heading to the 6th straight year of homicides, over 300. There are 24 poor performing schools nationally listed in the state of Maryland, and 12 of them are in Baltimore City. Taxes are going up. Matter of fact, in Maryland and here in Baltimore, they even tax rain. We are getting ridiculously taxed. Infrastructure is crumbling, so you're not seeing the rate of return on your money. Businesses are leaving, which means jobs are leaving. And there are things that, from a policy, especially a people-centric policy, that could turn those things around, and that just hasn't been done, as the statistics and the numbers show in Baltimore.
Do you think people are like they're opening their eyes more when it comes to like what the Democrats have done in the last few decades?
I think they're feeling their pockets more.
Okay.
I think they're seeing their children's education not looking the way that it should. And I think that they are more fearful and more concerned about the ever increasing homicide rate. So I don't think, and I'm actually glad to see that it's less this cycle about parties and more this cycle about people and policy that puts families first.
That's a good way to put it. I've actually never heard that before, so that's really brilliant. Thank you so much for that. So, Pastor, what are the issues that matter to you most? What is your platform? If anyone looks you up today, what can they see that is important to you?
Education, number one. Job creation and economic development without gentrification. That's number 2. And number 3, public safety, making our city safe again.
Okay, and I actually saw you, speaking of keeping your city safe, I saw a video of you at the Rescue America rally a few weeks ago.
Mhm.
So with the walkaway,
Right.
the first one they did, and then they did a few more in California, which were, it's funny because I saw the turnout, and every time it got bigger and bigger and bigger. So I think more people are like, "Whoa, this is actually a thing."
Mhm.
So why do you see, in a general sense, across the nation, why do you see a lot of people walking away from the left?
Well, because you can only live in Disneyland for so long. At some point, you got to come out and get in reality. And reality says that the policies and the legislation and the practices and the whole thought process does not work for urban America. So you're seeing it across the country because, unfortunately, Baltimore is not an anomaly. In a lot of cities that you see that are Democrat run and that are really based on party, not people and policy, you're seeing the same types of problems. And when you see it long enough, unless you're the subject of that what is that phrase? Keep doing the same thing and expecting something different, right? So unless you believe in that, at some point, when you keep seeing the same thing, you got to do something different.
Very interesting. Okay, and I mean, this is a year of division, a year of civil unrest, and big election year. So it's interesting to see a lot of that happening now. You know, so if someone was to approach you and say, you're another, I'm assuming are you Christian?
I am.
Because you're a pastor. Yeah. So if they said, oh, just another Christian conservative, Christian Republican, they're trying to control our way of life, what would your response be to that?
Depending on the mood I was in that day, might be 2 very different
Ah,
responses. I will admit that. I would say to folks, listen, regardless to what you feel about judging me, there's something very interesting here. You don't want to be judged. You don't want to be put in a little box. You want to be able to make your own decisions. Yet you look at me, make a snap decision because I'm Black, because I'm female, because I'm a pastor and I'm Christian, that I must want, like a Stepford wives syndrome, everybody to walk and talk the same way. If that were the case, I would not be a Black Republican in Baltimore City. That's number 1. Because that obviously goes against the statistical norm. So for me, it's not about getting everybody to think the same way, with one exception. It is about getting everybody to think that whatever you do, at whatever elected level you're in, that whatever that it is, that piece of legislation, if it doesn't put families first, it shouldn't go anywhere, period.
Amazing.
Families are the cornerstones of our neighborhoods, our communities, and our cities. If we don't do things that are family friendly and make sure that we're doing things that at the very least don't hurt families and family structure, and that basis, that corner foundational building block of our communities, you're doing it wrong. That's not the goal, or it shouldn't be.
Understood. Now, is this your first time running, Pastor?
No, my second.
Second time. Okay. So in this I guess in this case, what is your approach to winning the election in November? Now you got 3 months, less than 3 months actually, a little bit over 2. So what's your approach?
I know, right?
Yeah.
So we're doing a couple things. First of all, when I ran before, I ran for a different office. This is my first time running for mayor. And everything that you learn in how to campaign and how to work on a campaign, how to be a candidate, all went out the window when COVID came in. So it's been a very, very different election cycle. But some of the things that we're going to be doing and that we are doing, a lot of social media, a lot of posts, a lot of videos, a lot of teletown halls. And some of the other things that we're doing is not just talking about what we're going to do if we're elected, but actually doing some of those things now. For example, I went to a press conference yesterday. A lot of candidates were invited. When the gentleman called me, I actually hadn't gotten his email, and he called to see if I was going to attend. And I said, okay, great. Tell me a little bit more about the issue. I'm not one of those that I will go anywhere there's a camera, because no, that's just not me. So I wanted to know more about the issue. And he said, well, right now, Baltimore has never been really great with trash removal and picking up and keeping the city clean and all of that. He said, so we're having some significant problems in the area. And I said, okay, well, did you call the Department of Public Works? And he said, well, no, I called 311. I said, I didn't ask you that. I said, did you call the Department of Public Works and ask to speak to the director? And he said, no. And I said, okay, fine. Give me an hour. I will call you back and we will attempt to conference him in. And that's what we did. We ended up leaving a message. 35 minutes later, I got a call back from his assistant. Now, he bumped us down a level to who he had to speak with. And I explained to the gentleman, I said, I understand how your bureaucracy, that's a special word, works. Obviously, you can tell I don't like the word, so it doesn't even roll out correctly.
It sounded good coming out of your mouth, though.
I said, let me put it to you this way. I'm not going to be mad at you, but I'm going to ask you several things that you're not going to be able to do, which is why I called and I initially asked to speak with your boss, because I knew that you, although well-meaning, are not going to be able to give me a yes. So I'm certainly not going to accept a no. So I'm going to tell you what I'm going to ask you that I expect you to answer. And then I'm going to tell you what I expect you to go find out from your boss. He didn't like that too much, but he understood where I was coming from. The games that sometimes folks find themselves having to play to be able to get folks that are either elected or appointed or hired to do their jobs. It's ridiculous. You need a roadmap just to navigate getting something simple done. It's unacceptable.
Absolutely. Wow. A woman of results. I love it. Yeah. So for those who are, for lack of a better term, non-believers or non-Christians, how could you appeal to them in Baltimore? How do you appeal to that audience?
So I just talk to them the same way I would talk to anybody else. And I let folks know, they say, well, I already know where you're coming from. And I let them know, no, you don't. My job is to plant the seed. Your job is to decide if you're going to water it. When you leave here,
that's the word right there. That's the word right there.
That's between you and the maker on the other side. That ain't my concern and my business. My job is to plant the seed. What you do with it is up to you. So we can have a conversation, and I let people know, judge not lest ye be judged, number one, and to continue that, ye without sin cast the first stone. I'm not here to judge. I don't even like jury duty. I don't want to judge anybody on anything. Okay? What you choose to do, you grown, what you choose to do is your business. Now, when your business starts to impact other folks' business, then we got a problem. And that's really how I explain it to people. You get to choose how you want to live your life and what you want to do, just as I get to choose. But you don't get to choose for me, and I'm not going to try and choose for you. But let's see what we can come together on and what we find that we actually share in common. And when you sit there and you talk to folks in that manner, you find there's much more that unites you than actually divides you.
Absolutely true. I love that. I think that's the common thread I do get from everyone I've interviewed so far. Yeah, you are in different parties from somebody, but there is some type of common ground. So with that being said, I do have a question that I ask everybody, and hopefully I don't put you on the spot too much, right? So my channel is about finding common ground. So what is something that you can say that you do appreciate or do like about the left?
But when you put it like that, I scratch my head on that one. All jokes aside, I think that I don't know if I could answer it in that way, but I could say that I think there are some things we have in common. I think that no matter what side of the political divide you're on, you want to know that you have a hope of finding a good job that'll pay you enough that you can put food on the table, shoes on your feet, and keep a roof over your head. Regardless of what party you're in, I think you all want the hope that when you send your children out to school, that they will come back with all the parts and pieces you sent them out with, and maybe a little bit smarter because some of the education was actually good and sunk in. I think we can all agree on that every generation wants to see the next generation do better than they did. I think there are some basics that if folks don't agree on that, they got bigger issues. So I'm going to say I'd be hard pressed to find anybody that didn't agree on those basic principles. The question sometimes is what road we get on to get there.
Absolutely. Well put. I love, you're an orator. I know you're a pastor, but you're such an orator. I'm like, listening to every answer. I'm like, this makes sense. I love it. So my next question is a hypothetical, and hopefully I'm not giving you any bad luck, but hypothetically speaking, let's just be hypothetical here. And this is a two-parter actually.
Okay.
Hypothetically speaking, say that you do not win in November. What would your next, how would you pivot that? What would your next goal be? But also on the flip side, say that you do win. What is your eventual, what public office do you hope to get one day after Mayor of Baltimore?
Nope. See, stop right there. This is not a career path, a ladder, succession ladder move. No, this is not that. This is it for me. The real change, the sustainable change happens at the local level. This is home. This is what I want to fix. And my goal and my hope is that in fixing, and remember I said the word hope because I'm gonna come back to that. My hope is that fixing Baltimore sparks or ignites a spark in someone else to say that they can fix some things that aren't going quite right in their town or in their city. That's my goal. Higher aspiration, different goals, different elected offices. That's not really particularly on my radar at the moment. This is a handful. Now, if I don't win, it simply means that, to be very politically incorrect, if I do not win in November, it means whoever does win in November should be real scared, because that means I can continue to work on the issues that I want to work on without having to worry about being politically correct, and can dog them 24/7 from sun up till sundown to get things done in this city that I know need to be done.
And God willing, maybe you'll just run again next time. And yeah.
We'll see.
What do you
I
hope?
will say this, running right now in an urban area during a global pandemic, to say it's been an experience is an understatement.
I totally hear you. So where do you hope Baltimore, what do you hope Baltimore happens? I'm sorry, let me reframe the question. In 10 years, where do you hope Baltimore is for the next generation?
Oh, I like that question. So I would like to see that in 10 years, we are no longer talking about triple digit homicide rates, that we are no longer in that top 5 category. I would be hoping that whatever failing schools there may be in Maryland are not in Baltimore City. I would be looking forward to seeing the children that we've been able to help by fixing education and by making the streets safer are the next generation of doctors and lawyers and teachers and elected officials. That's what I would like to see.
I love that. I love that. Shannon, it was such a great time speaking with you. Let's get to know you on the personal side. I see
Oh,
movies behind you. What are you watching nowadays? What's your favorite movie?
wow. So if you ask my children, they would say one thing. If you ask my husband, he would say another.
Okay.
So my husband and I share an interest in not even B, but I guess C rated sci-fi movies. I'm I'm gonna, I have not shared this publicly anywhere, but it's kind of a funny story. And any true movie buff will understand this. A couple years back, it was summertime. It was a Thursday night, which meant sci-fi new movie night. My husband and I were having a date night. I think we'd gotten pizza or something, and we were watching a movie, and there was nothing on. So we were watching sci-fi. And that night, a movie called Sharknado came on. And we sat there and watched it, kind of in disbelief that this movie had actually been made. The next day, it became the biggest craze. And I have tortured, yes, I will say the word tortured, my children and my siblings and forced them to watch each subsequent Sharknado movie with me. One, because the movies are done in such a way that you have to laugh. And two, it was kind of comical for me to sit there and watch their expressions being forced to watch the movies with me.
You gotta love it. It's so cheesy. You can see the cheese on the screen. You can physically see.
Absolutely. It goes great with pizza because there's cheese and then there's extra cheese on the screen. It works.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, what are you reading nowadays? Are you reading anything specific? Of course, besides the Bible. Anything specific you're into?
Unfortunately, I have not had time to read for enjoyment. My reading list right now would bore most folks to tears. I've read through our city charter. I've read through policy briefings. We just did a really, barn burner policy briefing on economic development and how to redevelop a city through economic development without gentrification. We've done some readings and policy briefings on education opportunities and expanding charter and voucher and introducing educational savings accounts in Maryland. Not the type of reading that most folks would, really look forward to, but in situations like this and in every day running for office, you kind of need to know what you're talking about. So
Absolutely. Hey, it shows you're serious. You mean business.
absolutely.
Yeah. What are your hobbies? What do you when you're not out there, um, you know, uh, being a public figure? What do you do in your on your own time in terms of hobbies?
So I do two main things. I garden, and we started a vegetable garden about 15 years ago out of necessity between the kids, my mom, my grandma, my husband, and I, and trying to get everybody healthier and eating fresh vegetables. It was costly. So we started growing tomatoes and peppers and eggplants and stuff like that. And we really kind of turned that into an urban garden uh, workshop that we actually teach folks how to grow and either freeze or can or all of that sort of thing to kind of stretch their food budget and food dollars. So trying to grow new things in my garden, that is definitely one of my hobbies. And my other one, I will actually show you because I have it right here. It
Here
is
we go.
crocheting. I
Ooh.
crochet.
Hey,
So we have a new grandson who was just
congrats.
born 2 weeks ago.
Oh,
And this is his second baby blanket that grandma's working on.
Love it. Hey, I might have to order one from you myself.
That works.
Shannon, where can we find you on social media? Where can folks find you on social media? Do you have an official site you want to share?
Sure. Our website is writeforbaltimore.com. You can find us at Write for Baltimore on Facebook. You can find me on Twitter at Balti1, or my personal Twitter, which I will share with folks, is PSW, which is Pastor Shannon Wright, the number 4 and the letter U. And you can find us also Live Right on Instagram.
Now, mind you, folks, this is WRIGHT.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Pastor. It was such a pleasure hearing from you, and God bless you, and enjoy the rest of your week.
God bless you, and same to you as well.